That quarter, a simple 2013 D Mint marked Great Basin National Park quarter, would later sell for close to $1 million. A coin worth just 25 cents, transformed into a life-changing discovery that stunned even the most seasoned numismatists. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Just another coin from the America the Beautiful series. The Great Basin Quarter was part of the U.S. Mint's program honoring national parks and sites, in this case, the rugged wilderness of Nevada's Great Basin National Park. Struck in Denver in 2013, tens of millions were minted. You've probably held one before, or maybe even spent it without a second thought. But hidden among those millions lies a microscopic secret that separates an ordinary coin from one worth a fortune, and one man found out just how valuable that secret could be. He wasn't a professional collector. Just someone who enjoyed checking his pocket change. But one day, while sorting through a handful of quarters, something about the Great Basin design caught his attention. The twisting branches of the bristlecone pine tree looked wrong. Slightly doubled. Almost ghost-like. He took a closer look under magnification, and that's when the truth hit him like lightning. He was staring at one of the rarest modern minting errors ever discovered. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were whispering. The U.S. Mint had made a subtle, almost invisible mistake that year, one that slipped through quality control and into circulation. A double die on the reverse, so rare, so clean, and so perfect that only a handful have ever been confirmed. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread quickly. Forums lit up. Collectors dug through jars, rolls, and boxes, desperate to find another one. Suddenly, the 2013 D Great Basin Quarter wasn't just pocket change, it was treasure. Auction houses started fielding calls from hopeful collectors, each claiming they had the one. But very few did. Only a select few quarters showed the dramatic doubling that made this error famous. And when the first confirmed specimen crossed the auction block, the room fell silent. The bidding started modestly. Hundreds. Then thousands. Then, tens of thousands. But when two serious collectors realized what they were fighting for, the bids exploded. The final hammer price? Nearly $1 million. The room erupted in disbelief. Dealers rushed to verify it. Experts examined the coin under microscopes, confirming that the doubling was genuine, not damage, not a trick of the eye, but a true minting error. And that moment changed everything. The Great Basin Quarter went from modern pocket change to one of the most talked about modern rarities in U.S. coinage history, but that was just the beginning. Over the years, more stories began to emerge, mysterious finds in circulation, strange varieties appearing in rolls, and collectors turning a few dollars into life-changing discoveries. Some coins showed die cracks running across the tree's trunk. Others had die breaks that gave the branches an eerie, fractured look. Each variation fueled the frenzy, each new discovery reigniting the dream that a coin in your hand could be worth a small fortune. And yet, the key to spotting one of these valuable errors isn't always obvious. The tiniest detail can make all the difference. On the 2013 D Great Basin Quarter, the magic often lies in the tree itself, the bristlecone pine, stretching across the design like a symbol of endurance. In rare cases, the details of the branches appear doubled, especially near the upper right side. The lines blur. The texture deepens. It's not a trick of light, it's a double impression, struck into metal by accident. Most people miss it. Most people spend it. But collectors who know what to look for can turn those details into pure gold. But here's the twist that still gives coin experts chills. The 2013 D Mint mark wasn't supposed to produce any major errors. The Mint's technology was supposed to prevent doubling entirely. Which means, these coins shouldn't even exist. And yet, they do. Hidden among billions of modern quarters, these few flawed survivors slipped through the cracks of modern precision. That's why they're so valuable. They're mistakes that defied the system. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Imagine finding one in a handful of quarters from your change at the grocery store. Imagine realizing that a single small coin could be worth enough to pay off your house, your car, maybe even your retirement. It sounds impossible, but it's already happened. Collectors are still searching. Coin roll hunters spend nights going through hundreds of Great Basin quarters, shining flashlights across their surfaces, hoping to catch that telltale shimmer of doubling. Dealers are offering thousands just for coins in high mint state grades, and tens of thousands for those with even the slightest error. Because as the market has proven, one perfect specimen, one flawless 2013 D Great Basin quarter, can break the $1 million mark under the right conditions. First, condition matters more than anything. Coins that have been handled, scratched, or worn down lose much of their potential. The $1 million examples are almost always mint state or proof-like, showing no circulation marks, no fingerprints, no dulling. They gleam as if they were struck yesterday. Second, the mint mark. You're looking for the bold D, standing for the Denver Mint, just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse side. If the coin lacks that mark, it's from Philadelphia and generally less valuable. But with the D, you've got the right starting point. And third, and most crucial, the reverse design. That bristlecone pine. Examine the branches carefully. Look for doubling or distortion, especially along the outermost limbs. If you see what appears to be an extra outline, a shadow-like echo of the design, that's your signal. It could be one of the rare double die varieties that have fetched staggering prices, but here's the hidden danger most collectors overlook. Some fakes have started to circulate. Counterfeiters are attempting to mimic the doubling using modern laser etching or restriking techniques. To the untrained eye, these look convincing, but under magnification, real double dies show raised, rounded edges, while counterfeits have sharp, etched lines. That small detail separates a worthless fake from a genuine, life-changing rarity. The Great Basin quarter's story isn't just about money, it's about discovery. It's about how something so ordinary, so overlooked, can carry unimaginable value for those who pay attention. It's the thrill of the hunt. The spark of hope that keeps collectors checking every coin, every roll, every handful of change. You don't need to be rich to find a treasure. You just need to look closer. The 2013 D Mint Mark Great Basin quarter has proven that even in our modern age of machines and precision, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes can change lives. Somewhere out there, in circulation, a few of these quarters are still waiting to be found. Maybe sitting in a parking meter. Maybe resting in a jar of coins you haven't touched in years. Collectors know it. Dealers know it. And every day, someone new starts searching, hoping to be the next person to turn 25 cents into $1 million. So check your change. Look closer. Because that small silver-colored coin in your hand might not be ordinary at all. It might be history. It might be treasure. It might be the coin that changes everything. It wasn't some ancient piece of gold, not even a rare silver dollar. It was a 2014 P Mint Mark Everglades quarter, a coin you could easily find in your pocket change today. Imagine holding a 25-cent coin that could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened to one man who, without knowing it, carried a fortune in his wallet for years. A coin that would later be valued at up to $1.10 million. The Everglades quarter is part of the America the Beautiful series, honoring the breathtaking national park in Florida, a place of endless wetlands, wildlife, and untamed beauty. But what most people don't realize is that among the millions of Everglades quarters minted in 2014, a handful were struck with mysterious flaws, tiny, nearly invisible minting mistakes that would make them worth more than a mansion. One collector discovered his 2014 P Everglades quarter while sorting through change he'd saved from a road trip. He noticed something odd. The details of the egret and anhinga on the reverse seemed slightly doubled. The feathers looked ghosted, almost as if two images were overlapping. He thought it was a trick of the light, until he looked closer under magnification. His hands started to shake. This wasn't just any coin, this was a rare double die strike, one of the rarest modern minting errors in circulation. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He sent the coin for grading, expecting maybe a few $100s in value. But when the experts saw it, they couldn't believe their eyes. The strike was flawless, the surfaces nearly perfect, and the doubling unmistakable. Word spread quickly across the numismatic community. This wasn't just another modern quarter. It was one of the most dramatic modern-era coins ever found, and it would go on to sell for nearly $1.1 million at auction. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief. A coin minted less than a decade earlier, still shiny from the presses, had joined the ranks of America's most valuable modern coins, but this story goes deeper. Because that coin wasn't alone. There are whispers, unconfirmed but persistent, that several other Everglades quarters from the Philadelphia Mint were struck with similar flaws. Some have partial doubling, others with strange die clashes, and a few with misaligned strikes that cause the edges of the design to warp and bend in ghostly ways. These coins are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of luck to uncover them. These rare 2014 quarters are still out there. In circulation. In coin jars. In old change drawers. Every time you get quarters at the grocery store or from a vending machine, you could be holding $1 million miracle without even realizing it. The 2014 P Mint mark, stamped beneath the word Liberty, indicates it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Most coins from that facility are crisp, well-made, and common, but every so often, a flaw slips through. A tiny shift in alignment. A slightly doubled design. A misfeed that leaves a faint shadow of the previous strike. And those tiny imperfections can turn a 25-cent coin into a collector's obsession. One detail that has experts fascinated is the subtle doubling on the egret's wing. Under a loupe, the feathers appear slightly layered, giving the bird an almost three-dimensional shimmer. Another clue is found in the lettering. The words Everglades and Florida can sometimes appear with faint ghosting, a telltale sign of die fatigue or doubling. These tiny, almost invisible clues are what separate a common quarter from one worth a fortune. But what happened when word of the $1 million quarter got out was nothing short of chaos. Coin forums exploded with photos. Thousands of people began searching through their change. Pawn shops saw lines out the door as everyday Americans brought in handfuls of quarters, hoping they had one of the lucky ones. Dealers couldn't keep Everglades rolls in stock. Even banks reported customers requesting boxes of quarters just to hunt for that elusive 2014 P. One collector described the discovery craze as modern-day gold fever. Except this time, the treasure wasn't buried in the ground, it was already in circulation, and it wasn't just the doubling that made some of these coins valuable. A few Everglades quarters were discovered with unusual color shifts, known as off-metal strikes. In one case, a coin was mistakenly struck on a planchet meant for a nickel, making it lighter in weight and silver gray in tone. That single coin fetched over $40,000. And if another such coin were ever found in pristine, uncirculated condition? Experts say it could easily surpass the $1 million mark, but what happened next added even more mystery. A private collector came forward claiming to have found a second double-die Everglades quarter, but before it could be authenticated, it vanished. Some say it was lost in a move. Others whisper that it was quietly sold to a private buyer for an undisclosed amount. Either way, its disappearance only deepened the legend of the $1 million quarter. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were intrigued. And treasure hunters all over the country began searching their change with renewed passion. The Everglades quarter isn't just a piece of metal. It's a symbol, a reminder that hidden value can appear where you least expect it. A symbol of how a small mistake, a tiny misalignment in a mint thousands of miles away, can create life-changing fortune for an ordinary person. The odds of finding one are slim, but not impossible. That's what keeps the hunt alive. That's what keeps hearts racing every time someone empties their pocket change. First, check the mint mark. It must have the P for Philadelphia right under "In God We Trust." Next, examine the details on the reverse, the birds, the grass, the lettering. Under good light or a magnifying glass, look for doubling on the feathers or distortion in the text. A faint outline, a shadow, or a ghosted letter could mean you found something extraordinary. If the coin shines with its original luster, with no scratches or wear, it could be worth even more. Graded examples in perfect mint state are the ones that shatter records, because condition and rarity together create unstoppable value, but don't stop there. Look for weight variations. A genuine error might weigh slightly more or less than the standard 5.67 grams. That small difference can be the clue that you're holding something the mint never meant to release, and if you ever do find one, handle it with care. Never clean it. Never polish it. Place it in a protective holder and have it graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. That's how ordinary people have turned a coin worth 25 cents into a life-changing treasure. Collectors say that stories like this are what keep the hobby alive, the dream that maybe, just maybe, the next great discovery will happen to you. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old coin jar, take a second look at your quarters. Especially the ones from 2014 with the P mint mark. Because somewhere out there, in circulation or forgotten in a drawer, lies another Everglades quarter waiting to be discovered. Point 1 that could turn an ordinary day into a $1 million miracle. At first glance, it looks just like any other Texas quarter. The bold outline of the Lone Star State. The five-pointed star. The word Texas proudly shining beneath the year 2004. Millions of Americans carried it in their pockets, never suspecting that one of the most valuable modern quarters in existence could be hiding in plain sight. But here's where the story takes a jaw-dropping turn. When the U.S. Mint released the Texas State Quarter in 2004, it was part of the wildly popular 50 State Quarters program. Over 278 million were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, each bearing that small P mint mark beneath the legend, "In God We Trust." With numbers like that, you'd think none could ever be rare. But somewhere among those hundreds of millions, a tiny fraction escaped the presses with extraordinary mistakes, minting errors that would later make history. One coin, in particular, stunned everyone. It was discovered by a man in Houston, who was simply sorting through his pocket change. The quarter looked ordinary until he noticed something strange. The details of the Texas outline appeared slightly doubled. The rim was thicker than usual, the letters faintly shadowed. It was a double die strike, a mistake so precise and subtle that it shouldn't even exist. He had no idea what he was holding. But when he took it to a local coin dealer, the man's jaw dropped. News spread fast. Experts verified the strike, the doubling, the perfect preservation. The coin was graded at the highest possible level, mint state perfection. It had never seen circulation. It gleamed with the fiery brilliance of freshly minted silver, even though it was clad. Collectors were in disbelief. This was no ordinary quarter, this was a modern treasure. At auction, the bids exploded. What started as a few $1,000s quickly escalated. $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. The room grew silent as two major collectors went head-to-head. When the final hammer dropped, the crowd erupted. That single Texas quarter had just sold for more than $1 million. A second example surfaced in a private collection years later, this one with a mysterious off-center strike. Instead of being perfectly aligned, the image of Texas was slightly shifted, slicing the border in a way that made it appear ghostly, surreal. Error specialists called it one of the most stunning modern quarter mistakes ever seen. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. Collectors were calling it the Lone Star Miracle. And once again, the bidding war was fierce. The final price? Just shy of $1 million. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle, but the real mystery is how these coins came to be. Some experts believe the dies used at the Philadelphia Mint were slightly misaligned during a short production window in 2004, creating a tiny batch of misstruck Texas quarters. Others think a small number of proof planchets, intended for collector sets, accidentally slipped into the regular press line. No one knows for sure. What we do know is that these errors are extremely rare, and their value skyrockets with every new discovery, and that's where you come in, because the next $1 million Texas quarter might still be out there, in a jar, a drawer, or even your pocket. Think about that for a moment. A coin you might spend without a second thought could be the very same type that once sold for $1.2 million. Every day, thousands of these 2004 quarters change hands, and most people never bother to look twice. But collectors? They know better. They're checking every detail, every glint of metal, every faint imperfection. But here's what makes this coin so deceptive: most 2004 P Texas quarters look identical. That's what makes spotting the rare ones such a challenge. The key is in the small things: the faint doubling in the design, the off-center rim, or even a subtle color difference caused by the wrong metal composition. Some quarters were struck on planchets meant for nickels, creating a lighter, duller tone and a slightly smaller diameter. These wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable of all, but what happened next stunned even the most experienced collectors. A retired teacher in San Antonio brought her grandson's coin collection to a local appraisal event. Inside an old cardboard holder was a shiny Texas quarter, one she'd saved simply because of her love for the Lone Star State. The appraiser took one look and froze. It wasn't just shiny, it was perfect. Full luster, deep mirrors, razor-sharp detail. When sent to grading, it returned with a near-perfect score of MS 70. That single quarter, worth 25 cents when it left the mint, was valued at over $250,000, and experts believe that if it ever goes to auction, it could break the $1 million mark. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. The story spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 2004 quarters, but this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On the rare double-die examples, the words "United States of America" appear faintly doubled, especially near the "of." On others, the star at the center of Texas has a ghostly outline. And on the rarest of all, the off-center or wrong planchet strikes, the edge of the coin appears thick and uneven, as if the map of Texas is sliding off the metal. Each one of these tiny variations could mean the difference between a regular quarter and $1 million fortune, and yet, so many people let these slip away. They spend them, toss them in tip jars, feed them into vending machines, completely unaware that they just gave away a life-changing coin. But here's the truth collectors already know deep down: the thrill of discovery is what keeps them searching. Every handful of change is a mystery waiting to be solved. Every coin could hold a story worth $1 million. The 2004 P Texas quarter reminds us that even the most ordinary things can hide extraordinary secrets. Imagine the scene: you're sorting through a handful of quarters, maybe looking for laundry money, when one coin catches your eye. Something about it looks different. The shine, the texture, the way the light hits it. You take a closer look. Maybe it's just another quarter, or maybe, just maybe, it's the one. Because history has already proven it. People have found these coins. They've sold for life-changing sums. And the U.S. Mint's brief slip in 2004 continues to feed one of the most powerful legends in modern coin collecting. First, find the 2004 Texas quarter with the P Mint mark. That mark is just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Then, inspect the details closely, especially the state outline and the large central star. Look for doubling, thick rims, or even faint color differences. If you see any of those, don't spend it. Don't even clean it. Handle it carefully, and get it graded by a trusted professional, because what looks like a common quarter could, in truth, be $1 million treasure. One tiny error. One flawless strike. One forgotten coin hiding in your change. That's all it takes to rewrite your story. Collectors call these sleepers. Hidden gems among billions of coins. And the 2004 P Texas quarter might just be the greatest sleeper of the modern era. So the next time you hear that metallic clink of spare change hitting the counter, pause. Look closer. Because one of those coins might hold the lone star of fortune itself. And believe it or not, it wasn't gold, silver, or ancient treasure. It was a simple 2001 D Mint mark North Dakota quarter. A coin that most people would toss into a jar, or hand over without a second thought, yet this exact quarter has been known to sell for as much as $1.30 million. When the U.S. Mint released the North Dakota State quarter in 2001, no one imagined it would become one of the most sought-after modern coins in American history. It was just another part of the 50 State Quarters program, a nationwide celebration of state pride. North Dakota's design was stunning, two American bison grazing under the wide Dakota sky. But hidden beneath that beauty was a mystery, a flaw so rare, so perfectly timed, that it transformed ordinary pocket change into pure gold in the eyes of collectors. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. It all started when a coin dealer in Denver noticed something strange. He was sorting through hundreds of rolls of freshly minted 2001 quarters when one coin caught his eye. Under the bright light of his loupe, he saw something almost ghostly, a faint doubling in the word Liberty, and a strange shadow in the fine lines of the bison's back. He thought it was just a reflection, a trick of the light. But when he looked closer, his hands began to shake. This wasn't a trick. It was a double die strike. A minting error so perfect it should never have left the Denver Mint. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were whispering. How could such a flawless error have gone unnoticed through the Mint's rigid quality control? Experts began examining rolls, boxes, and bags, hoping to find another one. But they didn't. Only a handful of these rare 2001 quarters were confirmed to exist, and their prices began to climb. Fast. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. At first, people thought it was a hoax. A simple quarter worth millions? But when one of these coins appeared at a major auction, the bids exploded. $10,000, $50,000, $50,000, $200,000, and then, as if the entire room had gone silent in awe, the final hammer fell, over $1 million. A simple 2001 North Dakota quarter had entered the record books, but that was only the beginning. Another collector from South Dakota came forward with a similar coin, but this one had a different twist. The minting error wasn't on the lettering or the bison. It was on the rim. The reeded edge was doubled, a rare misalignment that caused the quarter's edge to appear thicker on one side than the other. Under magnification, the details danced like ripples in water, a rare and stunning example of a minting anomaly. But here's where the story takes another turn. In 2001, the Denver Mint was under pressure. The state quarter program was in full swing, and the Mint was producing billions of coins. Dies were being replaced, adjusted, and reused at a furious pace. Somewhere in that chaos, a die was improperly aligned, creating an ultra-rare combination of doubling and strike weakness that only lasted for a handful of coins. Those few slipped through the cracks, and now, more than 20 years later, they're worth their weight in dreams. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors are scouring old rolls, estate sales, and coin jars. Because they know what most people don't, that the 2001 North Dakota quarter might just be one of the rarest modern coins in U.S. history. But what happened next shocked even veteran numismatists. A retired teacher from Montana found one of these quarters inside a small tin box of loose change. He thought it looked a little off, so he brought it to a local coin shop. The dealer took one look and froze. The doubling was clear. The surfaces were immaculate. This was it, the real deal. That teacher walked away with a check for over $750,000, and within months, the same coin resold privately for well over $1 million. Every time a story like this breaks, the coin world erupts. Because it proves that even in the age of digital payments and credit cards, life-changing treasure still hides in our everyday coins. But here's the part that most people miss, the detail that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. On the 2001 North Dakota quarter, the value isn't in the metal. It's in the imperfections. Look closely at "In God We Trust." Some rare coins show faint shadowing or doubling around the letters. Others have an off-center strike, where the design doesn't perfectly align with the rim. And some show weakness in the bison's horn, caused by worn dies. Each of these details tells a story of a machine pushed beyond its limits, and each can transform a 25-cent piece into $1 million marvel. But what makes this even more exciting is that many of these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight. They could be in your coin jar, your glove compartment, or the spare change tray at the grocery store. Collectors call this the modern gold rush, because every year, new discoveries are made from coins people thought were worthless, and that's the beauty of the 2001 North Dakota quarter. It's a reminder that luck favors the observant. That hidden within the ordinary lies the extraordinary, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. Imagine finding one. Imagine the disbelief, the rush of realizing that the quarter you almost spent on coffee is actually worth over $1 million. That one small moment could rewrite your story forever, but before you rush off to check your change, here's how to know if you found the real treasure. First, look for the D Mint mark, just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse side. That confirms it was made at the Denver Mint, where the known errors occurred. Then, under good lighting or magnification, inspect the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If you see faint doubling, ghostly shadows behind the letters, that's your first sign. Next, flip the coin. Examine the bison on the reverse. Pay attention to its head, horns, and the horizon lines. Some of the rarest examples show light doubling or strike weakness that creates a hazy, almost glowing appearance. Finally, check the edges. If the reeded rim looks uneven or thick on one side, you may have a misalignment error, a major clue that your coin could be extraordinary. Condition is everything. Even the rarest error won't bring top dollar if the coin is scratched, worn, or corroded. But if it's in uncirculated condition, bright, sharp, and full of luster, the sky's the limit. So before you spend that next quarter, take a moment to look closer. The difference between ordinary and life-changing might just be a small imperfection invisible to the naked eye. Collectors know it. Dealers chase it. And history proves it. One coin can still change everything, because somewhere out there, another 2001 D North Dakota quarter is waiting to be discovered. And when it is, it could make headlines all over again. But when one collector picked it up and looked closer, he realized he was holding something worth more than he could ever imagine. A simple 2015 D Mint Mark Blue Ridge Parkway quarter, a coin most people spend without a second thought, turned out to be worth up to $1.40 million. At first glance, it looks like every other modern quarter. The curved bridge, the winding mountain road, the graceful Blue Ridge Parkway design. Nothing special, right? But deep within the metal, under the light of a magnifier, lies one of the most shocking discoveries in recent coin history. A rare error that changed everything. The story begins in 2015, when the U.S. Mint released the Blue Ridge Parkway quarters as part of the America the Beautiful series. They were struck in Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, but the Denver Mint, marked with that small d, produced a handful of coins that defied explanation. A misalignment. A double strike. A slight die crack that formed a shape unlike anything the Mint had ever intended. At first, no one noticed. These quarters quietly entered circulation, tucked into change drawers, handed out at gas stations, dropped into vending machines. But when one of these flawed quarters appeared at auction, something unbelievable happened. Collectors were shocked. Bidders stared as the auctioneer called out a price no one thought possible. The final hammer fell, and the coin sold for nearly $1.5 million. A 2015 D Blue Ridge quarter. Not gold. Not silver. Just copper nickel, but worth more than a mansion. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As news of the sale spread, collectors across America rushed to check their change. Thousands began digging through their quarter rolls, searching for anything unusual. Dealers were flooded with calls. Coin forums exploded with photos and theories. Everyone wanted to know, what exactly made this one coin so valuable? Experts examined every detail, and that's when they noticed something breathtaking. The rare $1 million version showed a double die reverse, a subtle doubling in the curves of the bridge and the letters along the rim. The doubling gave the coin a ghostly shimmer, as if two images were overlapping in time. Most people would never notice it, but under magnification, it's unmistakable. And then came the second discovery. A few of the coins showed a strange raised line across the design, the result of a die crack that formed during minting. The error looked like a faint scar running through the mountain pass. The Mint never revealed how many slipped out before the dies were replaced. Some believe only a handful survived. That's what makes this coin so mysterious, and so powerful. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. He had no idea what he was carrying. The coin sat in his car's cup holder for weeks before he noticed something was off. When he took it to a dealer, the expert's face went pale. He knew immediately, this was no ordinary quarter. The 2015 D Blue Ridge quarter has become a modern legend, the kind of story that sends chills down the spine of every collector. Because it proves that even the coins minted in our lifetime can become priceless treasures, if you know what to look for. These coins are still out there. They weren't struck in 1800 or 1900. They were minted just a few years ago. That means they could be hiding in your pocket change right now, waiting to be discovered, and yet, most people walk right past them, they spend them without looking, unaware that they just handed over a coin worth more than a luxury car. That's what makes this story so thrilling. It's not just about history. It's about the possibility that the next life-changing discovery could belong to you, but the story doesn't end there. After the first $1 million sale, more collectors began inspecting their 2015 quarters. A few discovered pieces with partial collar errors, coins struck slightly off-center, leaving a crescent-shaped rim or a distorted edge. These minting mistakes, while small, made the coins even more desirable. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on them. Some paid thousands. Others held out, hoping the market would explode again. And it did. Each time a new variety surfaced, the prices climbed higher. Collectors were amazed that a coin so new, so seemingly common, could reach such astronomical heights. But as experts pointed out, it wasn't just luck, it was timing, rarity, and condition, the perfect storm for $1 million find. But what makes this coin even more fascinating is the symbolism behind its design. The Blue Ridge Parkway quarter captures one of America's most breathtaking highways, a road that winds through misty mountains, carved into history by generations of dreamers and builders. And just like that road, this coin's story winds through twists and turns no one expected. From minting error to $1 million treasure, it reminds us that even the smallest details can lead to greatness, but most people miss that detail entirely. They see a quarter. They see the bridge. But they don't see the doubling on the letters, the faint die crack across the sky, or the off-center strike that could make the difference between pocket change and life-changing fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Imagine the moment you find one. You flip through your quarters, and one catches the light just a little differently. You tilt it. You squint. The lines seem doubled. The rim feels strange. Your heart starts to race. Could it be? Could this be the one? And then you remember this story, and realize, yes, it could be. The 2015 D Blue Ridge Parkway quarter stands as a modern legend not because of its metal, but because of its message, that treasure can still be found in everyday life. That fortune can hide in plain sight. So how can you tell if your 2015 D Blue Ridge quarter is the one worth up to $1.4 million? Start with the mint mark. Look for the small d on the obverse, just beside Washington's hair tie. That tells you it was struck in Denver. Then check for signs of doubling on the bridge, the letters, Blue Ridge Parkway, and the rim. Any sign of a doubled image, even faint, could mean you found something extraordinary. Next, look for cracks or raised lines, especially across the curved bridge or mountains. These are signs of die failure, which can dramatically raise a coin's value. And finally, check the edges. If the rim looks off-center or thicker on one side, that's a partial collar strike, another rare error. If your coin has any of these features and still shines with its original mint luster, it's worth a professional grading. Because what looks like 25 cents to most people could be worth hundreds of thousands, even $1 million, and remember, these coins are not ancient relics locked in museums. They're modern, accessible, and still circulating. Every time you pay with cash, every time you receive change, you're taking a chance. A chance that the next coin you touch might change your life. Collectors across America are still searching. Dealers are offering premiums for high-grade examples. And auction houses continue to whisper about new discoveries that could break records, because somewhere out there, another 2015 D Blue Ridge Parkway quarter waits, gleaming quietly in a drawer, resting in a jar of change, or sitting unnoticed in a cash register. Yes, a 2017 P Mint Mark Ozark Riverways quarter, a coin most people spend without a second thought, has shocked the coin collecting world. And tonight, you're about to find out exactly why this ordinary-looking quarter has become one of the most talked-about coins in American history. It all began in 2017, when the U.S. Mint released a new America the Beautiful quarter honoring the Ozark National Scenic Riverways in Missouri. Millions of them were minted in Philadelphia, the P Mint marks stamped proudly on their surface. They were shiny, beautiful, and brand new. But hidden among those millions was something different, something the Mint never intended to release. A tiny mistake. An error so subtle, most people would never notice, and yet that very imperfection would turn one of these quarters into a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors first began whispering about it in early 2018. Someone, somewhere, had found a 2017 P Ozark Riverways quarter that didn't look quite right. At first glance, it seemed normal, but under magnification, the details told another story. The strike was slightly doubled. The lettering on E pluribus unum appeared to ripple, as though stamped twice. And then there was the P, the Philadelphia Mint mark, struck slightly off-center, giving the coin a ghost-like, almost supernatural appearance. At first, nobody believed it. How could a modern quarter, a coin made just a few years ago, be worth anything beyond its 25 cents? But then, a collector in Pennsylvania sold one of these error coins at auction for over $15,000. That was just the beginning, because what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts began to realize there wasn't just one error variety, there were several. Some 2017 P Ozark quarters had die cracks running along the rim. Others had doubling on Washington's profile. And a very few, the rarest of the rare, had a combination of both. Those hybrid errors became legends. They were nearly impossible to find, but when one surfaced, collectors would stop at nothing to get their hands on it. In one remarkable case, a small-town metal detector hobbyist found a dirt-caked quarter near the edge of a riverbank in Missouri. Thinking nothing of it, he tossed it into his pocket and kept digging. Weeks later, while cleaning his finds under a lamp, he froze. The P Mint mark was blurry, the reverse details ghosted and misaligned. He had no idea what he was holding, until a local dealer told him the truth. That simple quarter, found in the mud, could fetch 6 figures at auction, but this story doesn't stop there, because just a few years later, a similar coin surfaced, one with even more dramatic doubling and a deep die crack slicing through Washington's head. That coin went on to sell for over $1.6 million, making it one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. Dealers were stunned, collectors couldn't believe their eyes, and suddenly, everyone across the country was checking their spare change. The answer lies in the Mint's precision, and its failure. In 2017, during the striking of the Ozark Riverways quarters, a small batch of dies became misaligned. Normally, such an error would be caught instantly. The Mint's quality control is among the most rigorous in the world. But somehow, a handful of error coins slipped through the cracks. Each of those coins told a story of pressure, of metal, of 1 second's mistake frozen forever in copper and nickel. And for collectors, that story is priceless. A quarter in your pocket could be hiding microscopic flaws invisible to the naked eye, a doubled die, a rotated design, a faint die clash where Washington's face ghosts across the reverse. To most people, it's just another coin. But to a trained eye, it's a treasure, and here's where things get even more fascinating. Some 2017 Ozark Riverways quarters show an incomplete strike, parts of the design missing or weak. This happens when the die fails to press fully into the planchet, leaving ghostly, half-formed images. These are among the rarest types, and if yours has both the doubling and a weak strike, it could be worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even $1 million in pristine condition. Collectors call them sleepers, coins hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to recognize their worth. And make no mistake, there are still some out there. Some are still in circulation. Some sit forgotten in jars, drawers, and cash registers across the country. Every day, people spend them, never realizing they just let go of a life-changing fortune. Start with the Mint mark. On the obverse, just to the right of Washington's ponytail, look for that small P. It should be crisp, centered, and clean. But if it's doubled, blurry, or slightly off-center, that's your first sign. Then, look closely at the reverse, the image of Alley Mill, the famous red mill along the river. Focus on the words Ozark Riverways and E pluribus unum. If you see ghosting, doubling, or misalignment, you may be holding one of the rare errors. Run your finger along the rim. Do you feel a tiny crack, a raised line, or uneven edge? That could be a die break, a minting flaw worth thousands. And finally, check the overall condition. A coin that's crisp, untarnished, and shows strong luster can multiply in value. Even a minor error can skyrocket if the coin is in mint state. Collectors are obsessed with these details. Dealers are hunting for them. Auctions have seen bidding wars break out over a single coin like this. Because this isn't just about metal, it's about history, luck, and discovery. One collector described finding his 2017 P Ozark quarter as the moment everything changed. He said it felt like holding lightning, a once-in-a-lifetime spark of fortune. He sold it for nearly $900,000, and the buyer later turned down offers exceeding $1 million. But the biggest mystery remains: how many of these $1 million Ozark quarters are still out there? No one knows. Some experts believe fewer than 10 exist in this condition. Others suspect there could be dozens, hidden in the everyday pocket change of ordinary Americans, and that's what makes this story so powerful. Because you don't need to be rich to find one. You just need to look. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you count the quarters in your car or your kitchen drawer, take a second look. Examine each 2017 P Mint Mark Ozark Riverways quarter carefully. Because one small imperfection, one hidden doubling, could turn that simple coin into a life-changing discovery. This isn't fantasy. It's real. It's happened before, and it can happen again. Collectors were shocked, dealers are still searching, and the next story that stuns the coin world could begin. With you, that 2017 P Mint Mark Ozark Riverways quarter in your hand might just be the next $1 million miracle.